As I stood at the altar, watching my husband marry the woman he once claimed to have forgotten, I felt a twist of betrayal in my gut. Just 6 months ago, he forced me to accept his ex into our lives, insisting it was for the sake of their son. Little did he know I had a secret of my own, a secret that would unravel everything. When the cake was cut and the music faded, I made my move. My name is Harper. This is the moment he learned that some smiles hide the darkest truths. The evening wore on, the air thick with unspoken words, as I moved to the dimly lit corner of the reception hall. Mark was mingling with our friends, laughing too easily, while I felt like an imposter in my own life. He had always been the life of the party, charming and effortlessly drawing others into his orbit. But tonight, I could see the shadows dancing in his eyes, ghosts of a past that seemed to loom larger with every interaction. It was as if Victor's mere presence had pulled him back to a time when their lives intertwined in ways I could never fully comprehend. I watched him share a laugh with Victor from afar, my heart nodding as I tried to wrap my mind around the reality of their history. That laugh, so familiar and yet tinged with a bittersweet quality, sent a chill down my spine. Elaine had always warned me about the dangers of buried feelings resurfacing. The past has a way of creeping back into the present when you least expect it, she once told me, her voice laced with the wisdom of experience. I had thought her caution was overly dramatic, but watching Mark with Victor made me realize that sometimes the past was more than just a memory. It was a tangible force that could disrupt the very fabric of our lives. I turned away, swallowing hard against the wave of emotion that threatened to engulf me. This wasn't how our anniversary was supposed to unfold. I had envisioned romantic whispers and tender moments, yet here I was, alone in a crowd, haunted by the woman who once held a place in Mark's heart. My thoughts spiraled as I retreated to the safety of the restroom, needing a moment to collect myself. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized, eyes rimmed with tears, a smile strained and brittle. I splashed cold water on my face, hoping to wash away the doubts that clung to me like shadows. The sound of laughter from the reception filtered through the door, and I couldn't help but cringe at the thought of rejoining the celebration. But I had promised Mark I would try to embrace this part of his life, even if it felt like a betrayal of my own emotions. The weight of my decision pressed down on me as I thought about Victor. She was beautiful and confident, qualities that had always intimidated me. I had seen the way she effortlessly commanded attention, the way people gravitated toward her. I had spent too many nights comparing myself to her, measuring my worth against the memories of a woman who had walked away from Mark but had never truly vanished from his life. It was infuriating to admit that a part of me wanted to be like her, to possess that undeniable magnetism. But more than anything, I wanted to feel secure in my relationship with Mark, to know that my love was enough to overshadow the past. I could hear the music changing tempo, signaling a shift in the atmosphere outside the restroom. It was time to face the music, to confront the reality that was my marriage. Steeling myself, I pushed the door open and stepped back into the hall. Immediately, I caught sight of Mark, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. A soft smile broke across his face, and for a fleeting moment, I felt that familiar warmth, the love that had drawn me to him in the first place. But just as quickly, I noticed Victor standing beside him, their conversation punctuated by easy laughter. My heart sank again, and I instinctively pulled my shoulders back, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than a reflection of my true self. As I approached, the air thickened with tension. I could sense the unspoken words swirling between us, a tempest waiting to erupt. Mark reached for my hand, and I took it, squeezing tightly as if trying to anchor myself in the reality of our bond. "There you are," he said, the genuine relief in his voice momentarily easing my discomfort. "I was just telling Victor how beautiful you look tonight." I forced a smile, my heart racing as Victor turned to me, her expression inscrutable. "You really do, Harper," she said, her tone surprisingly warm. I've always admired your style." I didn't know whether to be flattered or suspicious. Part of me wanted to believe her, to accept this unexpected compliment as a bridge between us, but another part whispered that it was simply another layer of manipulation. I smiled politely, unsure of how to navigate this new territory where the lines between rivalry and camaraderie blurred. Mark's hand tightened around mine, and I felt a surge of gratitude for his support, even as my doubts gnawed at me. We spent the next few minutes exchanging pleasantries, attempting to fill the awkward silence with small talk, but my mind was racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on unstable ground, desperately trying to keep my balance while the world around me threatened to tip over. The specter of Victor loomed larger with every passing second, taunting me with the memories she evoked in Mark. Finally, the music shifted to a slower rhythm, and couples began to pair off for a dance. I felt Mark pull me toward the center of the floor, and for a moment I was lost in his eyes, remembering why I had fallen in love with him. But even as we swayed together, a part of me remained on high alert, waiting for the moment when Victor might intrude again, bringing with her the unresolved questions and insecurities I had buried deep. "You okay?" Mark whispered, concern etched on his face as he drew me closer. "Just a little overwhelmed," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, understanding etched into his features, yet there was an underlying tension I could not ignore. As we moved together, I sensed the distance that had grown between us, a chasm that felt deeper with every beat of the music. I wanted to bridge that gap, to reach across the divide and pull him back to me, but the weight of Victor's presence loomed over us like a storm cloud, threatening to rain down doubts and fears that had no place in our anniversary celebration. As the song played on, I closed my eyes and focused on the rhythm, trying to drown out the noise of my insecurities. I wanted to believe we could emerge from this unscathed, but deep down, I knew that the real battle was just beginning. The moment I opened my eyes, the world around me snapped back into focus. The soft glow of fairy lights strung above us flickered against the backdrop of our intimate setting, yet their warmth felt distant compared to the chill creeping into my heart. Mark was smiling, his laughter ringing in my ears, but it felt like an echo of a past I wasn't part of. I needed to break the spell of Victor's shadow, but how could I when it loomed so large? As I looked at my husband, I saw the man I fell in love with, yet I also recognized the remnants of his life before me, the life he shared with Victor. I recalled their shared memories, the laughter, the love, the moments that built a history I could never penetrate. I could feel jealousy clawing at my insides like a feral beast, but I couldn't let it show. Not now, not on our special day. I took a deep breath, forcing a smile that I hoped could mask the turmoil inside. "Harper," Mark called, his voice infused with excitement. "Come dance with me." He extended his hand, and I hesitated, torn between wanting to join him and wanting to hide. However, the warmth in his eyes urged me forward, coaxing me into a moment of connection. I placed my hand in his, feeling the familiar spark of affection, even as doubts lingered. As we swayed to the music, I buried my face into his shoulder, inhaling the scent of him, familiar and comforting. "I'm so glad we're together," I murmured, trying to be genuine, to push aside the gnawing thoughts of Victor that dogged me like a relentless shadow. But even as I spoke, my mind wrestled with the undeniable truth that Victor was an indelible part of our story, a chapter I couldn't ignore. "Me too," Mark replied, and for a moment I thought I heard a hint of something deeper in his voice, a hesitation that hinted at the uncharted territories of his heart. It was as if he too felt the weight of my uncertainty. "You know, I've been thinking," he began, but I cut him off, sensing that whatever he wanted to say could lead to places I wasn't ready to explore. "Let's just enjoy tonight," I said, my tone light but my heart heavy. I wanted to focus on the now, on us, rather than the specter of Victor that seemed to slide between us, whispering doubts that threatened to unravel the threads of our marriage. As we danced, I noticed Elaine watching from the sidelines, her warm smile a beacon of support. She knew the struggles I faced, having shared countless late-night conversations filled with my fears and worries. Her presence reminded me of the strength I could draw from her wisdom. I needed to channel that strength to rediscover the woman I was before this storm swept into my life. "Let's step outside for a moment," I suggested to Mark, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind and help me regain my composure. He nodded, a look of curiosity flickering in his eyes as we moved away from the festivities. The night air was crisp, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the celebration inside. "Harper, is everything okay?" he asked, concern washing over his features. The earnestness in his voice made my heart swell, even amid my turmoil. I hesitated, searching for the right words to express the whirlwind of emotions I grappled with. I need to understand," I finally said, feeling a wave of vulnerability wash over me. "It's hard not to feel like I'm competing with your memories of Victor." His expression softened, and for a moment, the complexities of our situation seemed to fade, leaving behind only the love we shared. "You're not competing. My past doesn't define what we have," he said earnestly, taking a step closer, bridging the gap that had formed between us. "Victor is part of my life story, but you are my future." I searched his eyes for sincerity, for affirmation. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to feel secure in his words. But the past is a powerful adversary, and it held a grip on him that I couldn't fully understand. "But she's still here, Mark. It's like she's a ghost in our lives, and I don't know how to make her go away." He reached for my hand, pulling me closer. "I know it feels that way, but she's in my past, Harper. You are my present and my future. I chose you, and I choose you every single day." His words warmed me, but still, the gnawing doubt lingered like a thorn. "What if she's not done with you?" I whispered, a tremor in my voice. Mark frowned, his brows furrowing. "You have to trust me. I can't control her actions or her feelings, but I can promise to stand by your side. We'll get through this together." Just then, a laugh drifted from inside the venue, pulling me back to reality. I was reminded of the importance of facing these issues together rather than allowing them to fester in silence. "I want to believe that," I said softly, "but I also need to know how to let go of my fears." He studied me for a moment, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. "Let's take it one day at a time. Whenever you feel threatened, talk to me. Whenever Victor's presence feels overwhelming, let's face it together. You're not alone in this." My heart swelled at his words, and I realized that this was the first step toward healing. I didn't have to carry this burden in silence. We could share it, confront it together. The journey ahead would be challenging, but with Mark's commitment and my resolve, I believed we could find our way through the tangled web of love and past relationships. "Okay," I said, a new determination flickering in my chest. "Let's face this head on, together." As we re-entered the celebration, hand in hand, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The flickering lights above us no longer seemed distant. They pulsed with the rhythm of our commitment. We would navigate this storm, together. With every step we took back toward our friends and family, I could feel the warmth of our unity enveloping me, a promise that love could prevail over the shadows of the past. If you enjoyed this emotional journey and want to discover how Harper and Mark continue to navigate the complexities of love, make sure to subscribe for more captivating tales. As we navigated back toward our friends and family, the weight of our shared pasts hung in the air, but I could feel the warmth of our unity enveloping me, giving me strength. I recalled how, in the midst of our struggles, we had both learned important lessons about trust and vulnerability. The smile I had worn at our wedding, the one that now felt like a distant memory, was not just a mask. It was a reflection of hope, a fleeting glimpse of what we could achieve together if we faced the truth head-on. Mark's words during our anniversary celebration rang in my ears. I was reminded of his commitment to me, yet uncertainty still lingered beneath the surface, whispering doubts I tried to silence. In the days that followed, I found solace in my conversations with Elaine. Her wisdom had always been a guiding light, illuminating the paths I sometimes struggled to see. One afternoon, while sipping tea in the cozy kitchen, I laid bare my fears. Mom, what if I'm not enough for him? What if Victor represents something I can't compete with? I searched her eyes for reassurance, for a solution to the turmoil that swirled inside me. Elaine leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. Harper, it's natural to feel threatened, but remember that love isn't a competition. You and Mark are building something unique together. Her words felt like a balm, soothing the raw edges of my insecurity. He chose you, and that says more about his love for you than any past relationship ever could. Trust in that choice. I took her words to heart, realizing that Mark's history with Victor did not diminish my worth, but rather highlighted the strength of our bond. After all, we had both walked through the fire of uncertainty to find each other. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, the shadow of Victor loomed, always just out of reach, a ghost I could not seem to shake. I needed to confront this uncertainty head-on, and I knew what I had to do. One evening, I invited Mark to sit down with me after dinner, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light across the living room. I felt my heart race as I prepared to speak, knowing that this conversation could redefine everything between us. Mark, I began, my voice steady yet laced with vulnerability. I want to talk about Victor. I can't keep pretending she doesn't affect me. He met my gaze, his expression a mixture of surprise and concern. Harper, I thought we were past that. I thought we were moving forward. I know, but I need you to understand how her presence makes me feel. It's not about doubting your love for me, it's about my fear of losing what we have because of her. My honesty hung in the air between us, heavy yet liberating. Mark sighed, rubbing his temples as he absorbed my words. I never wanted to put you in this position. You deserve all of my attention, and I don't want my past to threaten our future. I could see the conflict in his eyes, a reflection of the turmoil that had plagued us both. I never intended for Victor to come back into our lives like this. It's complicated. I nodded, understanding that complicated was an understatement. I know it is, but I want to understand your past better. I want to know why she still occupies a space in your mind and heart. The vulnerability in my voice surprised me, but I had crossed a threshold I could not return from. Mark took a deep breath, his gaze dropping to the floor as he gathered his thoughts. Victor was a significant part of my life. We had dreams together, plans for a future that never came to be. But I chose you, Harper, and every day I choose you again. It's just hard to let go of that history completely. I reached for his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. I want us to face this together. Help me understand so I can stop feeling like I'm losing you to her. I can't fight a ghost without knowing who it is. He looked up, his blue eyes reflecting a mix of regret and resolve. I'll do my best to help you understand. Just promise me that we'll face this together, no matter how difficult it gets. Together, I echoed, the words solidifying a promise between us. We needed to navigate these murky waters as partners, supporting each other through the fear and uncertainty. Later that week, we scheduled a dinner with Victor. I was nervous, my stomach in knots as I prepared for the encounter. There was no way to predict how it would unfold, but I knew I needed to confront my fears head-on. When the evening arrived, I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made me feel confident. Mark held my hand tightly as we approached the restaurant, and I leaned into his strength, reminding myself of the love we had built. As we entered, Victor was already seated, her presence striking. She looked up with a smile that, despite my best efforts, sent a shiver of unease through me. "Mark, it's so good to see you," she said, her tone warm, yet laced with an undercurrent I couldn't quite decipher. I forced a smile, taking a seat beside Mark as we exchanged pleasantries. The conversation flowed easily at first, but I could feel the tension building beneath the surface. I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve to speak my truth. Victor, I think it's important we talk about our situation. Mark and I are trying to build a life together, and your presence complicates that. Her expression shifted, the warmth in her gaze replaced by a flicker of surprise. I didn't mean to intrude on your life. I just wanted to reconnect with Mark. We have history after all. But that history shouldn't overshadow what Mark and I are trying to build, I asserted, my voice steady. I glanced at Mark, who nodded in silent support. Victor studied me for a moment, her features softening. I see that you truly care for him. I can respect that. But I want you to know that my intentions are not to disrupt your marriage. As the evening progressed, I began to realize that Victor was not the enemy I had envisioned. Instead, she was a woman who had once loved my husband, just as I loved him now. This shared understanding was the first step toward a fragile truce, one that could allow us to move forward without the weight of the past bearing down on us. When we left the restaurant, I felt a surprising sense of relief washing over me. It wasn't the end of my insecurities, but it was a moment of clarity that I had needed desperately. Mark wrapped his arm around my shoulder, and in that small gesture, I felt the strength of our bond reaffirmed. "You were incredible in there," he said, pride shining in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you," I replied, resting my head against his shoulder. In that moment, I knew that love, while complicated, had the power to heal and transform. Together, we were stronger, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As I pulled away from Mark, my heart fluttered with a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. We had shared an incredible moment, yet the specter of Victor loomed large in the back of my mind. I took a deep breath, trying to push those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the warmth radiating from Mark. The aftermath of our conversation at the anniversary dinner left me feeling raw but hopeful. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed every word exchanged. What struck me most was the realization that Mark had been battling his own demons, caught in a tug-of-war between two women he cared about. I wanted to be the one he chose, but Victor's return had brought out an insecurity I didn't know existed within me. I wondered if our love was strong enough to withstand this test. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, a steady reminder that vulnerability could lead to strength. I needed to trust not only Mark, but also myself. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden glow across our bedroom. I could hear the soft sounds of Mark moving about in the kitchen, a reminder of his comforting presence. I rose, feeling a newfound resolve, and joined him. I found him pouring coffee, his back to me, and the sight warmed my heart. He turned as I entered, a smile breaking across his face, and for a brief moment, all felt right in the world. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, handing me a steaming cup. I took a sip, savoring the rich flavor, and felt a sense of normalcy wash over me. As we settled at the table, I sensed there was more we needed to discuss. But the idea of bringing up Victor again made my stomach twist. Yet, I knew avoidance wasn't an option. "Mark," I began, my voice steady despite the heaviness in my heart, "we need to talk about Victor." The air thickened with unspoken words, and I could see his expression shift. "I know she's a part of your past, but I need to understand where you stand." I watched as he set down his cup, the silence between us amplifying my insecurities. "I don't want you to feel threatened, Harper," he replied, his gaze earnest. "Victor is a part of my life I thought I had closed the door on, but her reappearance has opened up old wounds, and I know that's difficult for you." I nodded slowly, the lump in my throat tightening. "I just don't want to feel like I'm competing for your heart. I need to know that I'm enough for you." His eyes softened, and I could see he was wrestling with his emotions. "You are more than enough, Harper. I never meant to put you in this position." His hand reached across the table, covering mine, and I felt a flicker of reassurance. "I want us to move forward together. I need to confront my past, to truly close that chapter so we can write our own story." The honesty in his words struck a chord. I felt the tension dissipate slightly, replaced with the possibility of healing. "What do you think you need to do?" I asked, curiosity piqued. "I think I need to talk to Victor," he said, the weight of his decision evident in his voice. "There are things left unsaid between us. I want to clarify boundaries, make sure she understands my commitment to you." A wave of apprehension washed over me, but I nodded in agreement. "Okay, but you have to promise me that you'll keep me in the loop. I don't want to be blindsided again." "Absolutely," he assured me, squeezing my hand gently. "We're in this together, and I don't want you to feel alone in any of this." As the day unfolded, I felt a strange mix of optimism and anxiety. I wanted Mark to confront Victor, but I also dreaded the potential fallout. When Mark left for his meeting, I found myself pacing the living room, my mind swirling with possibilities. Would he come back reassured, or would this only complicate things further? My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a text from my mother, a simple message asking if I needed anything. I paused, contemplating how much to share. I typed back quickly, conveying my anxiety, but leaving out the details. I knew she would sense my distress, but I also didn't want to burden her with my worries. After a few moments, I decided to call her instead. "Hi, sweetie." Elaine's voice flowed through the receiver, calm and soothing. "How are you holding up?" "I'm okay, just nervous about Mark meeting with Victor," I admitted, unable to keep the tremor out of my voice. "Harper, remember that love can withstand trials. You're both taking steps towards understanding each other more deeply. Trust in that process." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, providing a sense of comfort amidst my fears. I needed to hear that I wasn't alone in this. "You're right, Mom. I just hope it doesn't change everything we've built." "It won't, as long as you both communicate. Just hold on to your love and don't forget that it's okay to be vulnerable," she reminded me, her wisdom shining through. After our conversation, I felt slightly more grounded, even as my mind continued to race with possibilities. Time dragged on until finally I heard the sound of Mark's key in the lock. I took a deep breath, straightening my posture, prepared for whatever news he would bring. As he stepped through the door, I searched his face for clues about how the meeting had gone. "Hey," he greeted me, a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. "Can we talk?" The weight of his words hung in the air, and I steeled myself for the conversation ahead, bracing for the truth that could either bring us closer or fracture the fragile peace we had begun to build. Mark's expression was a puzzle I desperately wanted to solve. It was as if he held a piece of our story that I hadn't yet discovered. "Is this about Victor?" I asked cautiously, hoping my tone conveyed the strength I was trying to summon. I didn't want to sound weak, but the reality was I was afraid. Afraid of what her presence meant for us, and afraid of how much I still cared about the man sitting across from me. He nodded slowly, his gaze dropping to the floor as if it held the answers. "Yes, it is." The words rolled off his tongue like a confession, heavy with the burden of his unspoken struggles. "I didn't think it would affect you like this, Harper. I thought I could handle it." His honesty was a fragile thread connecting us, yet it felt precarious. "I want to understand," I replied, my heart racing, "but I need you to meet me halfway. Your past doesn't have to dictate our future." I could feel the tension in the air crackling like static, but I was determined to break through it. I had spent too many sleepless nights worrying about Victor and what she represented in Mark's life. I didn't want to be the woman stuck in the shadows of her presence. I wanted to be the light that illuminated our path forward. "I know," Mark said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "It's just, we had so much history. I can't just erase it." He looked up at me then, and I saw the conflict in his eyes. It was like he was caught in a riptide, fighting to stay afloat but unable to swim to safety. "But I love you, Harper. I chose you." Those words hit me like a wave crashing against the shore. They were both a lifeline and an anchor, tethering me to the reality of our life together, while simultaneously stirring up all the doubts I had tried to suppress. "Then why does it feel like you're still holding on to her?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why do I feel like I'm competing with a ghost?" Mark ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I had come to recognize as his sign of distress. "I don't want to compete with you, and it hurts me to see you feel this way. Victor and I share a complicated bond, one that I thought was closed, but when she reappeared, it opened old wounds I didn't know were still there." I leaned in closer, searching his eyes for any hint of reassurance. "It's okay to have a history, but you need to choose to be present with me. Your heart should be here, with us." The vulnerability in my own heart made me feel raw, exposed, but I knew that if we were going to navigate this storm together, honesty was our only chance at survival. "I don't want to lose you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're my present and my future, but I need time to figure this out." Time. The very thing I had thought we had in abundance now felt like a ticking clock, counting down to an uncertain fate. "Maybe we both need time," I suggested, my tone softer. "But we also need to keep communicating. I can't be the only one who's afraid. I want to know what you're feeling, Mark, not just what you think I want to hear." He nodded, visibly grappling with the weight of my request. "You're right. I've been so caught up in my feelings for Victor that I haven't fully realized how it's affected us." The sincerity in his voice ignited a flicker of hope within me. Perhaps we could traverse this difficult terrain together, if only we learned to walk hand in hand rather than apart. "I think I need to talk to her," I blurted out before I could think it through. The idea filled me with a mix of dread and determination, not to confront her, but to understand. If I'm going to accept you and your past, I need to face it head on. Mark looked at me in shock, a myriad of emotions crossing his face. "Are you sure about that? It could open up a whole new can of worms." "I know," I replied, my voice steady despite the churn of anxiety in my stomach. "But I can't let my insecurity dictate our relationship. I want to be strong for both of us." He took a deep breath, visibly processing my words. "You're incredible. You know that? I don't deserve you." "Stop that," I interjected, a smile breaking through the tension. "You've chosen me, remember? We're in this together." With a newfound sense of resolve, we shared a moment of silence. The weight of the world momentarily lifted as we both considered the steps ahead. I could feel the corners of my heart softening as I recognized the depth of our connection. We had a journey to navigate, but we were not alone in this. Later that evening, I found myself back in the comforting embrace of my mother's home, where the smell of fresh-baked cookies filled the air. Elaine was in her element, bustling around the kitchen as she hummed softly to herself. "How did it go?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity when I walked in. "Better than I expected," I replied, sinking into a chair. "We talked, really talked, for the first time in a long time." Elaine's smile widened, and she set down her mixing bowl to give me her full attention. "That's wonderful, Harper. It sounds like you're both making progress." I hesitated, the conversation with Mark still swirling in my mind. "I want to confront Victor," I admitted, the thought both liberating and terrifying. Her eyes widened slightly, but then she nodded with understanding. "You're brave for wanting to do that. Just remember, it's not about her, it's about you and Mark. Focus on your relationship." "Exactly," I agreed, feeling buoyed by her support. "I have to remind myself that this is our love story, and I'm ready to write the next chapter." I left my mother's house that night feeling lighter, a newfound determination blossoming within me. Whatever awaited me with Victor, I knew I would face it with my heart wide open, ready to embrace the complexities of love and the strength that came from facing my fears. As I lay in bed later that night, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but think about the stories we all carry within us. I wanted to reach out to others who might be going through similar struggles, to remind them that they weren't alone, that love could be messy but worth every challenge. If you've ever faced the shadows of the past in your relationships, I invite you to share your story. Together, we can find strength in our shared experiences, navigating the complexities of love and trust, and reminding each other that the journey is just as important as the destination. As I sat in our living room, the soft glow of the lamp illuminating the space, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty swirling within me. Mark had always been my anchor, but Victor's unexpected return had created ripples in our relationship that I couldn't easily dismiss. I recalled the look on Mark's face when we had attended that art exhibit together. The moment he had seen Victor standing across the room, her presence commanding attention. I had felt a pang of jealousy, an emotion I had never expected to wrestle with. He had managed to act calm, but I could sense a tension in his muscles, the slight hesitation in his smile when he turned to me. It was as if the air had thickened with unspoken words, and I found myself wishing I could unravel the threads of their shared history without tearing apart the fabric of our love. I stood up, pouring myself a glass of water, hoping the coolness would help clear my mind. My mother, Elaine, had always been a beacon of wisdom, guiding me through life's tangled messes. I picked up my phone, contemplating whether to call her or simply allow the chaos in my heart to settle on its own. Ultimately, I chose the former, dialing her number and waiting, my heart racing as the phone rang. When she answered, her voice was like a soothing balm, grounding me in the moment. I shared my feelings, the confusion, the jealousy, and the overwhelming weight of Mark's past looming over us. "Harper, it's natural to feel this way," she said, her tone calm yet firm. "You're not alone in this struggle. It's okay to acknowledge what you're feeling, but remember to focus on what you and Mark have built together. Sometimes we have to confront the shadows to let the light in." Her words resonated with me, reminding me that my feelings weren't a sign of weakness, but rather a reflection of my love for Mark. I ended the call feeling slightly lighter, but still plagued by uncertainty. I looked out the window into the darkness, the stars twinkling like distant memories, and wondered what it would take for both of us to truly move forward. The next morning, I decided to confront the issue head-on. I could no longer allow Victor's presence to cast a shadow over our relationship. I needed to understand Mark's feelings, and I knew it was essential for him to understand mine as well. As I prepared breakfast, I could see Mark's usual morning routine unfolding. He was lost in thought, sipping his coffee while flipping through the newspaper, seemingly oblivious to the emotional storm brewing inside me. "Mark," I began, hesitating as I approached him, "can we talk?" The weight of my request hung in the air, but he nodded, setting the newspaper aside. "Of course, what's on your mind?" His eyes were kind, but I could see a flicker of apprehension. "I need you to be honest with me," I stated, my voice steady despite the tremor of anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. "Victor's return has shaken me, and I can't shake the feeling that you're still tied to her in some way." I watched as his expression shifted, the warmth fading slightly as he leaned back in his chair. "Harper, it's complicated. Victor and I have a history that I can't just erase, but I chose you. I chose this life with you." "I know that," I replied, frustration lacing my tone. "But it feels like I'm always competing with her ghost, and it's exhausting. I want to understand how you feel about her being around." He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a sign of his internal struggle. "She's part of my past, yes, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you deeply. I don't want you to feel like you're losing a battle because there's no competition. I love you." Hearing those words ignited a flicker of hope in my heart, but it was still clouded by uncertainty. "Then why does it feel like your past still holds so much power over us?" Mark looked down, contemplating his response. "Because I haven't been honest with myself. I thought being civil with her would prevent any drama, but it's only opened old wounds. I'm sorry if I've made you feel inadequate. You're everything to me." The vulnerability in his voice tugged at my heartstrings. I reached out, taking his hands in mine, feeling the warmth of his skin against my own. "I want to move forward, Mark. I want to build our future without her shadow hanging over us. I want to feel secure in our love." He nodded slowly, understanding washing over his face. Let's set some boundaries with Victor. I want you to feel comfortable, and I realize I haven't done enough to make that happen." In that moment, clarity washed over me. We were both grappling with our pasts, but that didn't define our future. I felt a renewed sense of determination, knowing that we could confront this together. We just had to peel away the layers of hurt and betrayal to rediscover the joy that had initially brought us together. As we settled into a plan, talking about how to handle future encounters with Victor, I could feel the tension between us easing. The conversation was a turning point, a step toward healing our wounds, and I realized that love could indeed flourish amidst the complexities of life. Together, we were finding our way back to each other, ready to navigate the challenges ahead, stronger and more united than ever.